Former X-Files star Gillian Anderson may be best known for investigating the weird and wonderful, but now she's put aside the paranormal and is putting pen to paper.
Along with journalist Jennifer Needle, Gillian is here today to tell us more about the new book, which she believes can help us live the happiest and most fulfilling life ever. And welcome to both
So
of you.
the secret of happiness is in here?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, and nowhere else, just in
So how did this happen between the two of you then? Because this is your book together.
Yes, well, we've been friends for over a decade, and this book is essentially the handbook that we wish that we'd had through our lives, and it's based on 9 principles, and it's basically tools and values, universal values, and it's a practical workbook for starting to look at our inside so that we can be the best on the outside that we can be, so we can be the best activists, the best partners, the best parents, the best, you know, best is such a qualitative word.
You've had to be incredibly honest for this, and I know, Jennifer, that's not necessarily something that you were ready to do, to be that open.
No, I mean, my background is I was a barrister and then a journalist, so I'm used to telling other people's stories, so it was difficult bringing my own story into it. And I think neither of us wanted it to be about us, but at the same time, it's a book about honesty, and what we're really suggesting is that everyone starts talking much more honestly about what's going on in their lives. So it felt that we both had to do the same thing.
But you say that as a journalist, you were the ITN Home Affairs editor from '94 to '99. You had a glorious, full-blown burnout, you say.
I so did, yeah, it was fantastic.
So that must have been a very unhappy time.
Well, it was. You know, I had lived in this kind of when-then mentality. When I get the job, when I get the kids, then I'm going to be happy. Everything was about my externals. And there was one day I was feeding my 2-year-old and my 6-month-old in their high chairs. I got a call from work saying, can you come to Downing Street, which should have been the most exciting thing as a journalist. And I just looked at them and thought, I can't go. I can't go. And that was the end of my career for quite a few years.
So when you say that you wish you'd had this throughout your life, this handbook, what are the key principles that you've learnt through life and life experience that you could have gone back and told your younger self, I guess?
Well, there are practical tools in it. You know, one of the principles is kindness, one of the principles is honesty, trust, humility, and there are some tools at the very beginning, the essential practices like meditation and kindness to ourselves, you know, doing an exercise like practicing one kind act to oneself a day and practicing a kind act to somebody else. Very, very simple things and small steps that we can take to start shifting the focus of our lives. So much of our lives are focused on the outside. We're told to behave, to be in particular ways, to look a certain way, to buy this and buy that, and that will be the answer, when actually we all know on the inside, you know, the value systems that we have in our own homes that we find difficult to carry out into the world, are that there are other things that have more meaning and more meaningful for us, and to start really taking a look at the difference between the lives that we're living and the lives that we actually ultimately really want to be living, and see if we can marry those two up.
Those two together. And you also, something that's lovely in there is almost a bit like when we would say count your blessings a little bit, which is before you go to bed to think about all the good things that you have in life.
It's because so often what we do is we think about all our problems. We think if we think really hard about our problems, that we'll somehow solve them, and it can end up feeling really bleak because we go into our minds and there's just a list of everything that's wrong. So that suggestion is that every night before you go to sleep, just think of 10 things that you are pleased that are in your life, and it's extraordinary. After a few days, you start to join up the dots of the positive things that are in your life rather than the less pleasant.
We obviously talk to a lot of people who've written books, and I can always remember interviewing a nutritionist who looked like the sickest man I'd ever met in my life. So interviewing you now about this happiness book.
How do we look?
Are you happy?
Yes, well, I mean, one of the parts of the book is that the fact that we still continue to struggle. The pressure is so great today to juggle everything, and we all feel so stretched. And I go through stages where I actually think that I've finally got it balanced, and everything's all right. And then a month will go by of complete chaos and insanity and me behaving like, you know, and then I think, well, what happened to that? The fact is, is that it's really hard to keep it up, and that one of the things that we need to practice is forgiveness of ourselves for being human, essentially, and the fact that we're all complex and we're all works in progress, and it's okay to be however we are. You know, it's okay to be human.
And what's the reaction
Human.
been like? Human, exactly, as it says,
Okay
read
to
it.
be human.
And what's the response been like to it? I mean, imagine a lot of people are relieved in a way that somebody's talking about it, I guess.
I think so. We've been quite overwhelmed by the response of women who say, thank goodness you've told us that it isn't all okay, you know, that inside you struggle as well.
That
That's
don't
been
have to be
wonderful.
perfect.